Cherringham, Episode 40, Cold Case. Written by Matthew Costello and Neil Richards. Narrated by Neil Dudgeon. Chapter 1. A Perfect June Evening. Carl Huntford walked carefully through the tall grass of the steeply sloping meadow, down towards the lake and the small wooden deck he'd built specially for evenings like this. He held a perfectly chilled Sauvignon Blanc in one hand and 2 wine glasses in the other. Behind him, carrying a small wicker basket with a healthy wedge of brie and some of those ludicrously expensive biscuits from the farm shop, his wife Christine followed. It was, as predicted on this summer evening, absolutely perfect in temperature, warm with just the gentlest of breezes blowing from right over the lake. He loved this routine of theirs, retreating down to the small deck he had built to overlook the lake and the nearby woods, observing every sign of wildlife as if it was a special show just for the two of them. Huntford relished all of it, especially having lost a whole year of such things. After an experience like that, he knew one learns to appreciate the really beautiful things even more. This meadow, for instance, the first part of the grand rewilding project for the house that he'd spent a whole year planning. The deliberately unmown grasses now dotted with oxeye daisies, red poppies, foxgloves, and the butterflies, red admirals, tortoiseshells, thrilling dabs of colour dancing from flower to flower. One day, if I'm lucky, he thought, might even spot an Adonis blue. Carl stepped onto the wooden deck, perched overlooking the lake, with its pair of sturdy metal chairs and a matching table for drinks and snacks. Just room enough for the two of them, which was exactly how Carl liked it. Putting down the wine and glasses on the small table, he quickly dug out a simple corkscrew from his back pocket. He used the curled tip to loosen the foil seal. He definitely did prefer an old-school cork, no matter what the pundits said about the equal efficacy of a simple twist-off cap. A cap, with all the romance and drama of opening a bottle of ketchup. He removed the cork with a smooth pop. "Nicely done," Christine said as she put down the cheese and biscuits. Dressed in a sleeveless blue gingham blouse and white shorts, she looked fantastic. "Couldn't ask for better weather," Carl said. Carl knew there would be days ahead when summer turned to autumn, autumn to winter, that rituals like this simply wouldn't be possible. But right now, perfect. He quickly poured 2 glasses and then raised his own to meet Christine's, a gentle clink, and he saw her smile, his wife always beautiful, her cheeks naturally a soft pink, just a spot of lipstick. No need for makeup, a natural beauty indeed. I am a lucky man, he thought. Then he turned away, gazing out to the lake nestled in the valley below and the thick woods on the hillside opposite, all belonging to him and his wife. Twilight soon. "Let's see what kind of visitors we get this evening," he said. And it wasn't long before they weren't alone. They had spotted a goshawk, drifting over the edge of the lake and then disappearing into the nearby woods, the trees dark and impenetrable. Probably sitting up on a high branch in there somewhere, thought Carl, watching, waiting for its prey. After what had seemed like an age, as Carl and Christine shared the cheese and pointed out other birds and chatted quietly, the hawk suddenly darted out of the trees, diving fierce and fast towards the edge of the lake. "Ah, got himself something," Carl said, as the bird swooped back up effortlessly, a grey shape clutched in its talons. "Or herself. You told me the male and female are equals when it comes to hunting." He smiled. "I did, didn't I? Oh, see there, looks like a plump little mouse or a shrew, perhaps, or not much of a meal. Perhaps a little takeaway for the chicks back home." They watched, sipped, dabbed the occasional biscuit with a smear of the tangy brie. Then Carl heard Christine say, "Oh, there she is, Mum and the kids from last year." Right on schedule. Walking so tentatively, emerging from the dense brush, the epitome of nervous, a quartet of deer, a female doe leading 3 spotted and younger fawns. The young ones munching while the mother mostly looked left, right, this way, that, ever protective. Eventually, they would likely be joined by others. On one occasion a week ago, the stag had showed up, always a thrilling sight, the beast's growing antler points like an armoury being readied for battle. And Carl, as he sat close to his wife, was about as happy and content as could be. The fabulous French wine, no doubt, helping with that. Charlie Topper had watched the couple make their way from their grand house on the hillside down the slope a good 100 yards away. Just as they had done before on the many afternoons he'd come by, hiding in the bushes and dense cover of trees off to one side of the house. Regular as clockwork, thought Charlie, which always makes life easier. At first, Charlie had been simply curious about how he might rob them, thinking a house like that, old but all modernized, must have a solid security system. But then, on his little expeditions, where he parked his beat-up Nissan a good mile away and tromped through the woods, well away from any trail, to watch the couple, to spy on them, he'd noticed one key thing. They always came out of the house to head down to their cosy little deck by way of a sliding door, slid open, then, oh so casually, left open. People so carefree in summertime, moving in and out as if there was absolutely nothing to worry about. And when Charlie was patient enough to stay for an hour, maybe more, he'd see them return, laden with an empty wine bottle and glasses, and just walk back into the house. No one pushed buttons on a keypad to gain entry, the security system off. I guess, he thought, they feel secure being so close that there's no need to lock the whole place down. And cameras? There had to be some, but they'd be placed discreetly, hard to spot. That was an easy issue to deal with. Charlie had a full-face skull cap with holes for eyes and mouth. It would make him just about as invisible as could be. On such a stuffy and close afternoon, not easy to breathe through, to be sure, but in this case he had no choice. So now he looked down the hill past all that tall grass, making sure that whatever they were doing down there with their wine, looking out at their property, they were well settled, their backs to the house, which meant, yes, time for Charlie Topper to see what goodies he might finally find inside. Charlie hurried from his cover in the trees and slid into the house through the same door used by the couple. He thought, security off. Probably any door could be opened without an alarm, but best to be safe. Charlie had heard rumours among some of his mates that the guy who lived here, despite having done time in jail for something bad to do with money, still must have some cash, maybe a lot. From the look of things when he stepped inside and took in the place, that had to be true. As he moved from room to room, Charlie thought that it looked more like a modern museum. Sculptures, art, all lit up. Though Charlie would be the first to admit, being a man of simple tastes, he didn't have a bloody clue what was valuable and what was decorative, but there was speculation, again, amongst some of his colleagues in the breaking and entering business, that the wife had jewels. Yes, and jewels were almost as good as cold hard cash, easy to slip to a fence, items with real value that could be turned into quick money. He edged close to a window and checked that the couple were still sitting down by that lake. Then he headed for the stairs.